Good afternoon, and thank you for your interest. I'm Tom Chapman, a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. I'm joined by our investigator in charge, Steve Prouty. Yesterday, NTSB launched a team to investigate a Wednesday morning Greyhound bus crash, resulting in both fatalities and serious injuries to occupants of the bus. Our investigation is a safety investigation. It is parallel to the law enforcement investigation which is being conducted by the Illinois State Police. The bus impacted 3 tractor trailers that were parked along the exit ramp to a rest area on westbound Interstate 70. The bus was a 2014 Prevost motorcoach. It was operated on a route from Indianapolis to St. Louis, which is a distance of about 240 miles. The bus was occupied by the driver and 22 passengers. The crash occurred in the early morning hours on Wednesday around 2:00 a.m. The scene of the crash was on westbound Interstate 70 at the Silver Lake Rest Area near Highland, Illinois. The rest area is approximately 40 miles east and slightly north of St. Louis, Missouri. Before I go further, on behalf of all of us at NTSB, I want to express our profound condolences to the survivors and to the family and friends of the victims of this terrible tragedy. Highway safety investigators from NTSB began arriving yesterday evening and are now on site. This morning, I joined our team for a preliminary inspection of the crash site and the bus wreckage. The NTSB team is led by Steve Prouty, who is the investigator in charge. Steve is a 12-year veteran of the NTSB with a previous career in law enforcement. Steve and our team will examine the areas of human performance, survival factors, motor carrier factors, highway factors, vehicle factors, and technical reconstruction. With regard to this tragedy, we are particularly interested in issues relating to rest area safety, bus occupant protection, and potential driver fatigue and medical fitness. In addition to our investigators, we have specialists from our Office of Transportation Disaster Assistance on scene. They will be working closely with the families and local agencies to provide support to those involved. Our investigative team will be on scene for 4 to 6 days. We anticipate that a final report will be made available within 12 to 24 months. We are grateful and want to commend the law enforcement and first responders personnel who participated in the emergency response to this crash, as well as the hospital staff responsible for treating the injured. I also want to offer additional information about the mission of the National Transportation Safety Board. NTSB is an independent federal agency charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident in the United States and significant accidents in railroad, highway, marine, and pipeline. We also issue safety recommendations aimed at preventing future accidents. We are working closely with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the Illinois State Police, and the Illinois Department of Transportation. We are grateful for the support of these agencies. We encourage witnesses or those with information relevant to the investigation to contact the NTSB by email at witness@ntsb.gov. Let me repeat the email address. It's witness@ntsb.gov. For those who don't have access to email, we also offer a phone number, which is 866-328-6347. Again, that's 866-328-6347. Our investigators will work to thoroughly document relevant evidence and gather additional factual information. Our mission is to understand not just what happened, but why it happened, and to recommend changes to prevent it from happening again. We will not be determining the probable cause of the crash while we are on scene, nor will we speculate about the cause. These are the first steps in a lengthy investigative process. Once again, we extend our condolences to the families, and we thank the first responders for their efforts. With that, I'm happy to take questions, and I'll ask if you have a question to please raise your hand and identify yourself and your media affiliation. Yes, sir.
Beyond Broxton with CAMOD, can you give us the condition of the driver right now, any age, any identification so far?
I don't have information on the driver or his condition. That's information that local authorities will have. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Alexis Cortez from the Belleville News Democrat. What kinds of recommendations could the board make related to rest area safety, maybe based on, has it ever made a recommendation about that area in the past, for an example?
We have an historical interest in rest area safety. We're early in the investigation here. We need to determine what happened, what the factual circumstances were. I wouldn't want to speculate on any recommendations that we might make, but certainly that's an area that we'll be focusing on, and if recommendations are appropriate, we will certainly make them. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir. I'll take you next.
Comments for KSDK in St. Louis. There's been a lot of questioning about whether the commercial driver should have or should have not been there. Does that vary from state to state? Is that something that you can confirm?
Again, rest area safety is going to be one of the things we'll be looking at closely here. It is my understanding that this is a matter of state law, and it may vary from state to state. That's something we're still seeking to determine. We'll look at that very closely. We'll look at the circumstances under which those vehicles were located where they were. And again, if recommendations are appropriate, we will certainly make them. Yes, sir.
Clearly, we had tractor trailers parked along the shoulder of an entrance and an exit ramp at a rest area where there just aren't enough parking spots for them to pull over and get their mandatory rest after 11 hours of driving. That's an issue from state to state. It's an issue in Missouri. Trucking industry advocates have pointed to this for year upon year, and I just saw something about a recent survey where the number of drivers who list this as a top concern has risen from 75% already high to 98%. And every truck driver we've stopped and spoken to says this is one of their biggest concerns. We have to pull over to rest. There's nowhere to do it. And certain truck stops don't allow them to idle their trucks because they need them to keep the air conditioning going in the summer and the heat going in the winter. Is that something you have a point of advocacy about? Can the NTSB do anything? Have you made any past recommendations? Do we have a crisis or anything short of that, of just truckers who are forced to either keep driving and drive beyond their 11 hours or pull over along the side of the interstate? It's one of the two. They may not have options. Even at a rest area.
It's absolutely an issue. We do have a history in terms of rest area safety. We're actually investigating an accident involving somewhat similar circumstances involving parked trucks that occurred in Oregon within the last 2 years, I believe. That accident is still under investigation. The reason that we are focusing on this particular crash relates in part to those very issues that you raise. It's certainly one of the things that we'll be looking at closely. And again, if recommendations are appropriate, we won't hesitate to make them.
Has there been any action on any past recommendations? Have you seen change, like spaces added to truck stops or rest areas, or more rest areas added in a given state or a given stretch of interstate?
I'd have to look at that more closely. I don't have any information, but certainly that's the sort of thing that we can track down. Yes, sir.
Beyond Broxton again with CAMOD. I understand you can make recommendations, but do you have the authority to find someone? And in this case, could it be the state or the tractor trailer company that was parked on the side of the road?
NTSB is an investigative agency. We do not have regulatory or law enforcement authority. What we do have is credibility. We work very hard to maintain that credibility. One of the ways we do that is we ensure that we're very transparent about how we work. We avoid speculation. our recommendations are taken seriously. And again, if recommendations are made as a result of this tragedy, we feel confident that folks will take them seriously. Yes, sir.
Mike Kozachek with the News Democrat. You mentioned, are they asked for various numbers, and do you have any count on that?
I don't have details on that. Those details would come from local authorities, state and local authorities. I'm sorry, I can't help with that. Yes, sir.
You've been to the scene. Is there anything that sort of immediately jumps out about this situation that you can share at this point? I don't know if, I'm thinking, did it appear like the trucks were all off to the shoulder? Did they, were they sort of misparked or somewhere where they shouldn't be or typically?
Again, very early in the process. It was helpful to see the scene. I will tell you, it's very moving to see a scene like that. Nothing stood out to me immediately. I think again, though, it's so early. We'll have to look at that very, very closely. Certainly, we'll be looking at the location, the proximity of the parked trucks, the such details as the width and the length of the ramp and that sort of thing. But it's too early to say.
You don't know if the bus was trying to pull over and didn't have room.
We don't know. No, we don't
Or
know.
the rest area, or just passing.
Too early to say.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
David Muth, KSDK. I know you say it's early in the investigation, but have you had at least a chance to do a background on the driver to find out if he was certified up to his hours, how many hours he was on the road, any of that kind of information on the driver?
That's in process right now, and certainly one of the things that we're very interested in will be part of the investigation. Yes, ma'am.
Susan Alford with KMOV. Do we know if the bus was equipped with seatbelts for every passenger? And did the bus also have a driver-facing camera or any dash camera on it?
On the cameras, it's my understanding that there was a camera both inward-facing and outward-facing. When we saw the bus this morning, we were shown where that was recovered. That has been provided to the manufacturer of the recorder in California. As I understand it, that data will be downloaded, assuming it can be recovered, and will be shared with us. We have a team of experts who specialize in analyzing and collecting that sort of data. So there are recorders, as we understand it. Certainly, we'll do everything we can to recover that information and make use of it in the investigation. With respect to seatbelts, I'm told that this bus and Greyhound generally began equipping buses voluntarily with seatbelts beginning in 2009. This bus was a 2014 manufactured bus. Apparently, it was equipped with seatbelts. As you may know, under federal regulations, buses were not required to be equipped until manufacturer year 2016. Others? Yes, sir. In the back.
Travis Cummings with KSDK. You referenced the situation in Oregon, and you said that it had been a couple of years since you all had been looking at that. Why is it so lengthy, especially when we're constantly, this is one of our biggest industries on the road. We constantly have people getting goods, and that's been exacerbated by the pandemic, obviously. So why is the investigation so lengthy?
Our investigations are very, very thorough. They take time. We want to get it right, not fast. And sometimes I know folks are frustrated by the length of time it does take us to complete an investigation, but that's the reason for it. We do them very thoroughly. We're very diligent about making sure of the accuracy of our investigations.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
That said, if you drive by there again at midnight, 2 o'clock this morning, we have in the last day or two, you're likely to see the same situation again repeating itself. So those same set of factors that may have contributed to this aren't going to go away in the 12 to 24 months before your report. Does there need to be more of a sense of urgency here and elsewhere to address this issue? Members of Congress are talking about this now in the wake of this accident.
Good, very good question. look, if we find in the course of our investigation, in the early stages, for example, that it's appropriate to make recommendations before the investigation is completed, we have that ability, that authority, and we do that. We will make emergency recommendations when it's appropriate to do so, when we find during the fact-finding effort that some condition occurs that needs to be addressed more quickly than it would be if the final results of our investigation were held it up. Thank you. Thanks very much.